Hi Blender fans, and welcome once again to BLENDERTC. And don't forget, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Let's begin. Hi Blender fans, and welcome once again to BLENDERTC. I've had a bit of a request from Isis Alves. Could I make an headphone in my next tutorial? So let's begin. What we're going to do is I've actually included in the description of this video the reference image link, so just look in the thing and download the link. Alternatively, you can actually just find a picture of an headphone you quite like on the internet and use that as your reference. So let's begin. Couple of quick keys, G and X. We'll move our cube on the X, G and Y. We'll move it along the green line, G and Z. We'll move it top to bottom. Control Z will always undo the last moves we made. Pressing the tab key will go in and out of edit mode, and what we've got when we're in edit mode, we've got point select, line select and face selector. If you actually select a face, this will allow us to actually extrude a face up, and if we go back out of edit mode and press the if we actually press the S key while we're in edit mode, we can scale things down. And if we come out of edit mode and press the S key, this will scale the whole thing. Like I said, for this tutorial we're going to be using a reference image, and it's one I created earlier. Link in the description. So X to delete the cube, which we don't need, and what we're going to do is add in our reference image. So hit the 1 key so you're looking directly from the front, add in a mesh, and add in an image, and it's going to be a reference image. And I've got this saved in my headphones here, and I'm just going to just add it into my scene. I'm just going to scale this up just to make it a little bit bigger, just to make it easier for me to work with. I'm now going to actually move this picture G and Y along the green line back into the distance, and what I've got up here is we've got some filters which you can't see unless you widen this one by holding that. These arrows appear if you actually go and hover between the two, like so, and what you've got up here is a filter. If you hit the filter, it allows you to actually select this arrow, which then will actually make this arrow appear, and you can make this so you cannot select the image. So I'm just going to hit this so I can't select the image. As you can see, it's greyed out and it stopped me selecting the image. I'm just going to rename this by double clicking it as image, just to save the confusion later on in the tutorial. So what we've got here, what we're going to do first is we're going to add in a mesh, and the closest things to these earphone bits is the torus. So add in a mesh and a torus like so. I'm just going to scale this up in the Z just to make it a little bit thicker, and then I'm going to right click and smooth shade this. If I free rotate this now, press the R key then the Y, this will rotate like so, and I'm just going to scale it down slightly until it's about the right size and rotate it like you have there. So now we've actually got our headphones, or our earmuffs, whatever you want to call them. And next what we're going to do is add the speakers in. Now this looks a bit like a cylinder or cylinder-ish type shape, so I'm just going to add in a mesh, and I'm going to add in a cylinder. I'm now going to right click and smooth shade and rotate this by the Y just so it's about in the right place, and G just to move it just along there and rotate so it's about in the right place, and just scale this down until it's about the right size, and I'm just going to move that like so. If we then grab this front face by hitting the tab key, so you've got point select, line select and face select, so select the face, and what we can do is just go GG just to move it down along itself. GG just to move it into about there. So now we've actually got ourselves a little disc there, and what I'm going to do is extrude this along the normal just a little bit like so, and then I'm going to scale it up by pressing the S key till it's the desired place, which is there, and then I'm going to press the E key again just to extrude this to about there. As you can see, we've got a bit of a funny angle on there, so I'm just going to come out of edit mode, select that piece and rotate it like that. Going back into edit mode, what I'm going to do is just, in fact, going back into edit mode, I'm just going to select this face here, then Control and R. This is what you call a loop cut, and if you press the 2 key on your keyboard or roll your mouse wheel up, you can get as many cuts as you wish. So I'm just going to take it down and just put 2 cuts in there. Pressing the right click will actually fix it, or your right mouse button, and then just scale it up just to get our basic shape. I'm just going to move this down slightly like so they overlap. So now what we've got here, it's a bit hard to see this, so I'm just going to make sure that I'm in Eevee and just select it like that. So we've now got our basic shape, but it looks a bit rough and ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a subdivision modifier, add modifier, subdivision surface modifier, and as you can see, that's now made that quite round. But what I'm going to do is, you've got a bit of distortion here, as you can see. So I'm going to select that face, E to extrude, Control Z, E to extrude, S to scale, and E to extrude, S to scale. I know this is making an end on here, but because you've got 2 actual loop cuts on the flat, this makes for a very smooth version of our earphones. And if you want to actually tighten some lines up when you've got a subdivision modifier applied, all you need to do is select the line, Control and R, make a loop cut, and then you can GG just to fetch these closer inside the self. GG moves things inside the self, so GG, and you can just move them like so. And if you press the tab key, as you can see, we've got a tight edge there. So there it looks like we've got a flat line there and a flat line there, so we're just going to do that now. So you do this by putting a loop cut either side of this line here, Control R, and just move it into place, Control R, just by moving them close together like this will actually make a sharp line. So let me make sure I'm recording, because I've done this before where you're going all the way through your actual tutorial and then you realise at the end that you've not actually recorded anything, which is a bit, well, naughty, and it's a bit annoying to be honest, but there we go. Right, so I'm just going to select this face here, E to scale, and then E to scale again. I'm just doing this because, like I said, if you do 2 extrudes and then in on a flat surface, then that will stop any distortion. Pressing the tab key, as you can see, because we've put these cuts close together, that's put a nice sharp edge on there, which looks quite good. Right, so looking through the front, I'm just going to go to the image here, and as you can see that looks like a cylinder, so we're just going to add in a cylinder. Depending how much detail you want on things, you can just add in a cylinder. You'd have some kind of inch type thing, but we're just going to be doing this from a distance, so you don't need to actually mess about with an inch. Shade smooth, and it will still look quite effective. S to scale. I'm just going to scale this down like that. If we add the subdivision modifier to this now, subdivision surface modifier, and take it up to 2, as you can see there's some real distortion in this, and this is what I meant by actually selecting the top face and E and S and E and S. Just by doing 2 like that, as you can see, takes all the distortion out and makes for a really clean image. So back into edit mode, E and S, E and S, E and S to scale. And if you want to make something really sharp, you can still add a loop cut like so on that side, and do the same on the top if you wish, and that will make a really sharp cut. So looking from the front, what I'm going to do is just move this by pressing the G key roughly into place. The full stop will zoom in on the thing that you have selected, and I'm just going to scale this into Z like that, and we're just going to imply that there's an inch already built into there like that. So selecting this here, what we're going to do is Shift and D, which will duplicate that shape, scale it up, just make it nice and fat, scale in the Z direction to make a thin shape. As you can see, this looks like it's in an oval, so if we press the 7 key and look from the top, what we can do is scale in the X across the red line and make that into an oval, and G and Z will move it up into place. So we've now got our little headphone with the hinge, and it's up to you how much detail you add into things. In this reference image I'll put a little hinge there and buttons and all sorts of things like that, but what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to select this face here, and I'm going to simply extrude this out and up. So E and Z, and scale, and E and Z, and rotating. As you can see, because it's got a subdivision modifier attached to it, we just keep moving it up, E, and just rotate it round, just to make it however you wish to rotate it, G, in whatever manner, E, and rotate it. Now we don't want this to go right to the end, G, Control Z, and G just to move it into place, and I'm just going to rotate these so they're actually on the vertical. And right to finish it off, I'm just going to do extrude along the normals, but I'm just going to do it a fraction just to finish it off. So we've got our headphones, our headphone shape, and the only thing we need to do now is to actually look from the front, and what we're going to do is add in an empty, add in a mesh, and back out of edit mode, add in an empty, and the reason we're going to add in an empty is we're going to use this as a mirror object. So I'm just going to rename it mirror, like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually copy this around the mirror onto the other side and then apply the modifier. Very, very simple. So all we need to do now is we could do with actually gluing these all together. So it's always a good idea if you actually got a modifier applied to anything to actually apply the same modifier when you're actually combining stuff. It's like that. That's got a 2 attached to it. That's got a 2. Now that's got a 2. So what we're going to do is actually select the torus and select the mic holder and just join. Then select that cylinder and the mic holder, join, and finally select the headband and the thingy and join. You could select these all at once and then join them together, and it's entirely up to you how you do this. The other thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of detail to this. So I'm going to Control and R just to put a line there, and then Control and R, put another line, because any detail that you add will happen when you mirror this. So it's best to add the detail before extrude along normals, so you can take it in or you can take it out. And as you see, I've just added myself a little bit of detail there. I'm just going to Control and R and make this sharper just here. Just your own personal preference. It's entirely up to you what you do and how you do things to actually make your different shapes. You know, you could actually, so for instance, select this face here, E to extrude and then scale it, and E to extrude and scale it again, and we could actually press the Alt key down, hit this little line, take that ring and extrude it along its normal to make another little ring round the edge if you just want to add that little bit more of extra detail. Anyway, so that's enough detail for now, and what we're going to do is we've added our empty in, so I'm just going to actually mirror this around the empty here. So what we're going to do is add in another modifier, and this one's called the mirror modifier. As you can see, it's mirrored it around that point there. So what we want to do is mirror it around the thing that we actually, the empty that we created and renamed mirror. And there you have it. I'm just going to apply this this mirror. Only apply the mirror because we're going to actually use the subdivision modifier to do some other little bits of tricks later on. So apply. If we select this face here and this face here, and we grow the selection just by 1 just to join them together, and then we right click, you've got a thing called bridge faces. You've always got to have face selects on, but what you've got is bridge faces and bridge the faces. It'll take a little bit of time to work this out itself, but once it's done, as you can see, we've now made our headphones, and it's entirely up to you how wide you make your headphones. I particularly wanted a pretty slick one this time, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. And on the left hand side, I just want to actually make 3 little buttons. So 1, 2, 3. Pressing the I key is the inset key, and if we actually press it a number of times, we can actually make these 3 buttons, and I'm just going to extrude these along the normals like that. And going out of edit mode, as you can see, I've made myself 3 little buttons. One could be the volume, up and down, or and that could be the power in the middle, or whatever you want. In fact, they're a bit too stuck out, so I'm just going to GG just to move them down on their self, just so they're a little bit less stuck out. Mess that up completely, so I'm going to Control Z, GG just to move them down. In fact, Control Z. I'm just going to look from the side by pressing the 3 key, and I'm just going to just free move them, just so the buttons are a little bit less pronounced. And now all we've got to do is apply our modifiers and add some colours. So just apply the modifiers, and what we can do now is actually colour things in. So I'm going to use 3 colours on this. I'm going to make a if we actually add the colours, I'm just going to put new, add another colour, new, and another colour, new. I'm going to put one as metal, and we're going to set these up separately. One as velvet, double click, velvet, and one, let's call it cream, like a creamy coloured plastic or whatever you want to call it. So looking at this, we've still got our buttons attached, so I'm going to actually make that the metal colour. So just go, take your metal up. What you do is that's making it reflective. Take the roughness down. Make sure, of course, that you're actually on viewport shading, and you can just assign this. So I've made a bit of a mess of that. I've actually assigned the wrong colour. So what I'm going to do is actually select the cream and assign that to assign the metal to that, and then Control and I just to turn it fully the other way, and I'm going to assign the creamy colour to the rest of it. But what I'm going to do is make the creamy thingy half shiny and take the roughness down to nearly 0, but not quite, just to give me that kind of difference in colour. And then assign the cream. Right, I think it's still too shiny to be a plastic, so that's better. So now I've made my plastic, so I've got little metal buttons there and plastic, and the only thing we haven't got is we haven't got the actual velvet, so we're just going to make the velvet now. So select the velvet. On the principal shader there is a velvet one, so I'm just going to put velvet and change the colour down to like a blacky colour or a dark grey. Then going into edit mode, you can actually select the torus, press the L key like that, and just apply the velvet to it. So assign the velvet. There we are, and of course you want these to be the velvet colour on the inside here, so just select this edge there, select this edge here, and just grow the selection by pressing Ctrl and plus and assigning the velvet. So we've got our headphones more or less finished, and we're just going to add a little bit of detail to this. I think I'd like to actually make a little star on here. in metal and just assign that like so. I think I'll make that metal a little bit more reflective, so I'll take the roughness really down just to make my metal, and I'd like this to be metal as well, so into edit mode, press the L key there, press the L key and assign the metal colour, and same on the other side, press the L key while you're hovering over it and assign it. And I'd also like, I think, this here to be metal as well, but as you can see what I've done wrong there is that is part of that, so if you press the L key it selects everything. There's a quick fix for this, and what you do is go on face select, select this round. I did that by pressing the Alt and left clicking, and what we can do is grow our selections plus 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 until it goes to where we wish it to and no further, so minus just to take it just to about there, and then we'll assign the metal just to that. As you can see, we've now attached the metal onto that, and we can do the same on the other side. So into edit mode by pressing the tab key, across, Alt and left click to select that loop, and grow your selection and just assign the metal. And it also goes that you can actually, you know, make a metal band around there, and you could just assign the colour to anything you want, or make it anything you want. You know, it's just entirely up to you how fancy you make your model. And that, I think, is about the headphones are about complete. You can add yourself an HDRI in just to actually get really good sorry, just actually add in an HDRI. So go into the world, into the colour, we've got an environmental texture that will now turn this, or should turn this actual screen pink if we go to the end here like so, and we can actually open an HDRI image just to give it that realism. So let's have a look. We've got Cavelly interior, and as you can see that gives it some fantastic reflections. And of course we don't need our image now, so we can actually go on here, hit the arrow, select the image, X to delete that image. So here you have it, you've got a pair of earphones, and that's about the end of this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and if you were to actually add in a plane behind your, rotate in the X by 90 and just scale this plane up. So you're looking through the camera, I'm just going to rotate this in the Z, then just move it backwards, G. I'm just going to scale that up, and I'm just going to colour this in, make it just a black background. And if we were to actually just scale this down, F12, as you can see we've made ourselves a background image which could be a logo or anything that you wish it to be. I'll just take my roughness right up to the top, blackness down, specularity right down, press F12. We've still got the reflections, but we've got our headphones stood in the middle of nowhere. Let me just rotate this just to get Control Z, rotating the Z, and F12, and there you have it. we finish our headphones, and that's the end of the tutorial. Please subscribe to my channel if you found this useful, and bye for now.